What is up, everyone? I am back with Zach for another discussion here on the Team Kitchen Fable channel. Zach, how you doing?
Not too bad. I mean, Everfest spoiler season's full in swing, and we've got some interesting things covered today for sure.
Yeah, so that's what we want to talk to you guys about in this video. We want to know all about what you think regarding these Everfest spoilers. How do you think the set is shaping up from a collector standpoint? But more importantly, how do you think the set is standing up from a classic constructed standpoint? I know we've got a lot of cool Blitz cards. We've got the specialization cards for the Crucible heroes. I think it would be super cool to see like a Cheyenne like specialization card. And I know there's those question marks on the gallery. So I think seeing a shapeshifter, I'm like way ahead of myself. I'm just trying to preface everything, but I think there's a lot still to be excited about with Everfest. Just kind of knocking out that stuff. But I think today we want to talk to you guys about those core majestics, some of the rares and commons that we've seen, the new equipment. How do we think it's going to hold up? And as you can see by the background of this video, we've got a new Bravo hero. And Zach and I have already workshopped this hero a few times based on the card pools that we already have. I think in many ways you can think of Bravo, star of the show, as the fourth Tales of Aria hero who just wouldn't have fit into the draft experience. So, you know, I do believe, and I saw the hero come out, and my first thought was like, oh, that explains the three heroes set, right? Um,
Sure.
so, yeah, those are just like my first impressions and everything, and I know we'll get into more details. Zach, do you want to start us off with anything?
Yeah, I think I think one of the biggest, or at least most controversial things that people are kind of thinking one way or the other about is definitely items. We have a lot of them coming out of this set. And it's really interesting because I like a lot of the talisman items. Having that go again rather than taking that off setup turn to play it, wait next turn to get to use your E-Pod or time snap potion, whatever. Um, I think there's a lot of flexibility, and I also think that it opens up the door for a lot more combo potential decks. I think right now, at least on the competitive side of things for CC, it's been a very back and forth tug on what is resource efficient and what is flexible enough, let's say, to win all of your matchups across the hero pool, right? So you've got a lot of the more consistent heroes that have been topping tables and even taking nationals. You've got Prism, you've got Oldham, you've even got Viserai stepping into the fray. You've got the old Bravo, and a lot of those decks kind of share the same similarity in that they want to progress their board state slowly while stopping you in your tracks, whether that's blocking out, setting up spectral shields, setting up auras, interrupting you with arcanes, so you have to pitch and block. Um, but I think just the sheer amount of versatility some of these items bring really opens up newer play styles that we just haven't seen before, where you can go the full setup route of, okay, I'm going to have a bunch of items on board, or maybe a couple items here and there, pay off with a combo, couple items, so on. Like, there's just so many different variations that, at least from what I've seen in the community, are just getting scoffed at immediately. It's like, oh man, carnival slot or cold foils are going to be a bunch of items. Like, I'm not super interested in that, and that's totally fine. I do personally like the cold foils, like from Crew, with the really cool equipment and things like that. But there's still some great pieces here. I mean, like that full art lantern looks sweet. Like,
Oh yeah, yes sir.
reminds me of Thresh's lantern from League of Legends.
Same thought, man. Same thought as a support main in League of Legends. You know, I love Thresh, man. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, like, and I think it better contextualizes the Plunder Run and the Ball Lightning Ban as well,
For sure.
because at its core, and you can all you have to do is look at Welcome to Wraith to see this.
Right.
LSS wants Flesh and Blood to be an interactive game. They want
Yep.
every deck to be played out to its completion in order for the game to be won. And what you saw with Chain and Briar was it was just lay out my hand, do a ton of damage. Yes, of course, there's sequencing, there's skill involved, but it was lay out my hand. My opponent has to lay out their hand to stop the damage, and we're gonna play. That's the tempo, right? You did have some heroes like Dash who could kind of tank it up a little bit and do some things, but realistically, as Dash, you were not setting up items and succeeding when playing into Seed's Chain or Channel Plunder Briar. You just weren't. You were either trying to boost them out or just blocking with your whole hand, taking out your items, right?
Right.
And so these new generic items are really exciting to me because they allow you and it's so hard to keep all the names up because we're like getting a new one like every 10 minutes. But what it's going to allow you to do, and obviously some of them are balanced differently, like some of them you can play and keep continuing your turn. Some of them cost an action point to lay out. But the general consensus is so personally, I'm not excited to collect them, right? That's my take. I'm like, if this is my cold foil for the box, I'm not going to be happy. But as a player, I'm excited because I look at these also, and I think the underrated aspect, I think people are severely undervaluing copper, silver, and gold. Because if you look at the tokens themselves, have an action attached to them that give you card draw. So copper, it's even if you don't have cash in, if you have 4 copper, you can break 4 copper to draw a card. And I don't think that can be underestimated. I think, and we look at, and I'm going to go on a whole tangent here, but we look at the access to card draw through threatening on hits and playing these, these generation cards. I would say just like money generation cards in a smart way. If you can play them in a smart way, you can punish your opponent later in the game for allowing those to hit. So if you're playing, and this is what I see with Ninja, right? Oldhim in many ways deleted Katsu from the game.
Yep.
Right? Just crown shield, block both Kodachis, and I've got 4 cards in hand to deal with the rest of it, right? Yep. Or just take the Kodachis and do the same thing to the combo card. With these copper tokens and these items, and I think it's most pointed out in the newest spoiler that the card guys gave. I think the Kugani's spoiler combo was cool, but the new Flood of Force Rushing River card is basically saying if you can set up your deck and set up your board state to where you can generate card draw or peer deeper into your deck with these items than a ninja normally could, you can be rewarded immensely. So when you go into a slower game plan like Oldhim, you can say, fine, my Kodachis aren't going to hit, whatever, but you can get to that game point. You can set up those copper tokens, you can set up those items to then say, now I've got, so like my first cycle of the deck becomes setup, and then the second cycle becomes aggro. You're going back to that traditional aggro. You can start laying out your hand, but you have to earn it. And that's what I kind of see there, and that's the opportunity that I see. So personally, I don't think Ninja's dead. I think it's going to take us a long time to figure it out. I do think Ninja's underpowered. I don't see it. I think just the nature of the class and where the format's at, we don't see, I just don't see it keeping up with a lot of stuff. But in general, that was my take, and that's the opportunity that I see with this set. And I guess the last thing is, and I think because it's so different, it's going to be received a lot like Crucible was, which was at first it came out, everybody was like, we don't know what to do with these cards. And then it took 4, 5, 6 months for the meta to develop, and then all of a sudden Crucible of War was the greatest set, and you had to have Spoils of War, you had to have Find Center, and I think we're going to see a similar thing here. I think the community's at the point where Majestics are pretty obvious for the most part.
Sure.
But I think some of these other, common and rare generics or class cards that we're going to get I think those could take some time to evolve into, or maybe it's just that the game can't be balanced in that way where you can set up items. But I don't believe that. And and so I think we'll see a lot of opportunity with just the set overall.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the examples, like it took Oldham basically the end of Tales of Aria to become relevant with the kind of pitch stacking mechanic of the whole ideal first cycle pitching to set up for the second cycle, coming back through with your fused Oakenolds because you properly pitched it with an earth and a ice next to each other. Um, you basically didn't even hear from Viserai until the end of Tales of Aria, and that was way long ago. You know, that was Crucible of War was his essentially final support outside of Sonata. Um, so it's definitely really interesting to see, especially as just in general the entire card pool starts to open up. New strategies, pitch stacking or setup combo strategies, mixtures of both, or something completely different could come out of the wild. And I think that kind of brings up at least another point that you want to touch on with just in general what you think of our new Bravo hero. I know for me personally, just playing so many other card games from Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Force Will, Argent Saga, whatever you name it. It is wild to see such a large card pool available to one hero. I mean, you basically get all of Tales of Aria, right? Like minus class cards. You get all the elemental cards. You get every ice, earth, lightning card. You get all the Guardian cards, all the Elemental Guardian cards, all the previous Guardian cards, the Bravo specializations. That's a lot. That's a lot, just even from one deck builder's perspective of where you're even going to go with that. I know, like you said earlier in the video, we've been workshopping it, but I mean, even just workshopping it, there's so many different ways we can run with this.
It's being built, and like you have people who are traditional Bravo players building Bravo Star of the Show like it's Bravo Showstopper. Then you have I'm probably closer to the camp of like build it like it's Oldham, right? Like have X amount of fuse cards in the deck and just try to get to that late game, slow it down, maybe throw some disruption out in the early game. And then you've got people who are just bonkers, like treating Bravo like he's a rune blade, and they're like just doing whatever they can to generic their way through and then get to that end game with Oakenolds off the ability. And that's the scary thing about the big card pool is like you could sit down across from someone at the ProQuest and it'll just be a meme deck like they haven't figured it out. And then you'll go sit next to the next person and it's just going to be a unbelievably well-tuned deck. There's Pulverize on the screen. Like the Bravo players all think Pulverize is like an amazing card. And I'm over here like, nah, I'm not putting it in the list. Like, I can't see it happening. So
you need one.
What'd you say?
Yeah, so I said you need one.
Yeah.
But yeah, even while we're workshopping this, we have different ideas, and I'd say we're both probably in the same camp as far as like leaning towards Oldham. It's almost like a breath of fresh air when you get to essentially fuse without fusing, right? You get to reveal these cards, so it's like an entire different layer of things where you can apply the same kind of fundamentals of X ratio for whatever element you want to use, and then you can completely use your entire hand without having to worry about I need this one card or two cards for fusion. So it's like an entire different layer added onto the fact that you still can fuse half of these cards. So I don't know. It is a little daunting, I think, like you said, with the ProQuest. I know for me personally, whether I run Bravo, Oldham, Viserai, whatever, at the ProQuest, like if I sit across from a Bravo, I have no idea what to expect. And it's just going to be like that until I guess the meta accepts. I don't think the meta could accept one build, but probably 2 or 3 builds will be more consistent than most, and we'll start having to build around those more popular builds of it.
Yeah, I do think that's fair. I do think that meta wise, like you could see a two Bravo star of the shows in the meta, two different play styles. One probably closer to a pitch stack, slow the game down a little bit, and then you've got the potential to just toss an Awakening in there and go fetch a Crippling Crush now, which is one of the things when Awakening came out. Everybody's like, "Oh wow, great card," but like I'm gonna go find Snow Under. Like, what am I gonna do with that? Now I can play aggro Bravo and, sit back, take 11 damage, and say, sorry, fam, here's an Awakening, and just come back with the Crippling Crush, right? Now, obviously, it's not the same potency because you don't have on-demand Dominate. You do have to create opportunities for that Dominate. However, it's not as hard as it once was. I mean, if you have a Pulse in hand and that second Fuse card, what's to stop you from using your other 2 cards, Awakening and the Pitch card, to go find the Crippling Crush and just do it right there, right? So the Awakening now becomes this tutor for those Fuses in that more aggro build, right? But if I'm playing slower, I don't want to risk more no block cards than I have to. So, and frankly, a lot of the element cards, so Lightning, Ice, Earth, you have really strong ones like Lake Frigid. You have consistent ones like Heaven's Claw. And then you have some that are just like, what is this doing in my deck? Like, is Blue Flash really what you want to be running? Is the opportunity cost of having that in the deck worth the Fuse? And players are going to have to keep asking themselves questions. And I think it'll be exciting to see where we are next week, where we are a month from now, and where we are in the next calling season, because this hero is going to have spice, just like Bravo Showstopper. You could play against a Bravo, and like the general game plan always kind of had to be the same if you're playing against Bravo, just because the core threats are similar. And then about 5 turns in. Yeah. And then about 5 turns in, you'd figure out who they were. But with this, it's like that times 5. It's really, it'll be really interesting. All I know is that it's super satisfying to dominate a Crippling Crush for 13 go again, swing a hammer, and then the next turn draw into Oak and Old Fuse for 11. Like, it feels good. I'll tell you, it can be done. It feels great. But yeah, that's all I have to say on the hero.
It's interesting too, because like that entire conversation didn't even mention the potential of integrating any of the items into it either. And like so you have this
I wasn't gonna say it.
layer.
I wasn't gonna say it because I was gonna go workshop it with you after, but
no, yeah, I know, but like every potential example, and like we'll have more video for you guys later on of kind of not process potential for cards, maybe a set evaluation. But yeah, man, it's a lot, and the only problem I see with this is like we were looking at Dash the other day, who's had a couple cards spoiled, literally 2, with the third one now.
2 fantastic cards. Thank you, LSS. Yeah, really appreciate awesome you. Yeah.
But essentially trying to reinvent the wheel with 2 cards when you have a new hero with a new ability with access to hundreds of cards is just like, all right. Well, and we still need the rest of the set. We still need the rest of the generics. We still need to integrate items potentially, look at different play lines. That is where the true evolution of a lot of these heroes will be.
I'm still holding out.
I'm still holding out for a rare Mechanologist defense reaction.
And if we get
Yeah.
that, uh, I I don't know why I would play anything else, even if it ends up sucking and everything else just dunks on Dash for whatever reason. Like it's just gonna be everything I ever wanted, so I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
like commit to the hero. But yeah, man, sorry.
No, for sure, you're good. I mean, like everyone's got their favorite class or their favorite hero or combination of both. I mean, for me, like I'm gonna be revisiting Viserai, and even though I mean, the gloves are basically just an all rune replacement, but you know, the new create 4 rune chance. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but if you're able to pull it up,
No, no,
but
yeah, it's not up yet. It's
it,
the
it,
LSS
it
is like a day
integrates.
behind on this.
Okay, it just integrates so well into mid-range builds that are already there. Like I don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel with it, but it's still like that extra push. Like it's another source of generating rune chance, which is huge for Viserai's game plan overall. Very easily like playing turns where you can amplify the Arc Knight into even just Rosetta Thorn with 10 rune chance behind it off of this one card, which is wild. So really cool stuff there. I am.
What are you saying? Like Mordred tied it, and then creepers
Yeah, yeah,
over
yeah.
to, and then creepers over to Rosetta. Would that be?
Yep.
That would be 2 on play of amplify, then 2 on this, then it would be 8. No, then it would be 9. 9 rune chance. Sorry, I'm being like super mathematical,
Oh, no, 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 no.
but yeah,
I mean, sure.
but it
There's
is a lot. That's insane.
you could have on a hit attacks like meet and greet or something else to get to 10 or whatever you want, but yeah, like theoretically you can get to 10 or more.
Dude, that's a one. That's like literally a 4 card hand.
Yep.
Assuming you have some rune chance already. 4 card hand. Just pitch 2 resources so you could activate creepers and Rosetta, and you're doing 9 plus 9. You're doing 22. That's 22. That's bananas. So I think mid range Viserai has a lot of juice right now, and we haven't even seen the set.
Really cool stuff. Like everyone else, obviously just waiting for the rest of the commons, rares, any other items, generics, class cards we're gonna get out of this. But I think one of the important takeaways, at least from this conversation, is like, don't disregard the items. They're not all going to be top tier. They're not all built equally. They're not all going to go in every deck the same way like Plunder Run did or something. But, you know, be open to those new use cases. I think one of the most interesting things behind Flesh and Blood is that we're playing games with hands of 4 cards, but there's so much to think about every turn because your cards are modular. They're going to block, they're going to attack, they're going to give you something, they're going to pitch for resources, they're going to set up for a combo. I think a lot of people, like, especially if you're new into Flesh and Blood, like, that's just super intimidating. It's really difficult now. Like, I still start with WTR heroes when I teach someone how to play. Even if they have previous, you know, experience with competitive card games, not that they couldn't understand Arcane Rising or so on. But it's just like, it starts at the ground up, almost like a living card game, and it just keeps building from there. And the more newer players we get in, the harder they're going to have, harder time they're going to have building something unique from scratch rather than net decking. I don't think there's anything wrong with net decking. I think if you're new to a game, that's where you should start for optimized builds. I think you should proxy before you commit to just buying everything. If it fits your budget, you do you. But I think just being smart about it, you know, play test, see what you like. Even if a hero's doing really well, you might not like that play style. Going in a bit of a tangent with all of that, but bottom line to say, like, there's a lot of new things in this set. And granted, none of it has just come out and been, you know, there's been a couple good hitters. I mean, Illusionist's new card is really spicy. We just talked about a new Rune Blade card that Viserai or Chain or Briar could use. There's just a lot of different use cases. So I think, you know, if you're playing casually, stick with the hero or class you like. Start reevaluating, you know, maybe different play lines, go back to older sets, kind of reevaluate how could this potentially integrate with these new cards, these new items. what are combos I could never achieve because I didn't have the action points or the resources or the flexibility to get there. And even for competitive players, just taking the same philosophy. I just have seen so much on over the past couple days on the internet of just people talking down on Everfest because of all the items. It seems to be the biggest complaint that I've seen. And
we got bingo. What the heck? Yeah, how can you be mad at this set when we got bingo? Like, right. Just look at this card. If you are not yelling bingo in the tournament hall every time you play this, I think you should be banned from tournament play. I think it should be a requirement. I think it should be text on the card. Like, what's the hot take? Is that the hot take? What I just said? Hot take, yeah. That's the hot. Yeah. Oh my god! And I forgot about some of these early spoilers. Like, this round's on me. Like, that's gonna be a spicy meatball. Yep. Like, this is a blue pitch. This is like when you play into heroes that like this card like deletes mid-range Katsu. Like I just have a really like I'll just draw like another defense reaction and hang out from there. But anyways, yeah, dude, we need Katsu. Dude, Katsu needs to run pick a card, any card, and high striker. But the reason pick a card, any card is great on Katsu is because you can then sequence around your opponent after you play this. So this is like a great arsenal card, play 4 cards out. Like, I think if you're going to try to build aggro Katsu, you need this. And you need high striker too. But yeah.
It is interesting because information's huge, especially in Flesh and Blood, but it's always been that way in card games. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more notorious for it as far as like hand looking and hand destruction effects. I haven't played it in so long. I don't know any examples, but there was that new item that dropped that just lets you look at your opponent's hand, which could be a huge lead on, all right, I've played this new Bravo for 2 turns, but like I need to see what he's capable of, if I can go on my go off turn or I can do my setup turn. There's plenty of utility cards that are really useful, I think.
That's one of the new items that came out that shouldn't be on here, right? Like there's an item that does that. Yeah, I was particularly pumped about that one. It really does like that is a setup of like, okay, I can or I can't, because when you're playing more aggro, or even if you're mid range into someone that you know can block you out, you need to know, is now the right time. That card kind of makes it easier on you, particularly when you get to your 3rd cycle of the deck, where, you know, not everybody's perfect at counting their opponent's deck, figuring out how many cards they pitched, and like doing all that math in your head. Personally, I'm a pattern player. I just say, okay, it went down X amount of turns. Like, I'm going to do some kind of like rough math in my head to figure out what the odds are. Right. Sure. And again, like, I guess I'm kind of like more and more sold on Ninja here. But yeah, anyways.
You go over everything that deletes them.
Yeah.
I did find it. Potion of Seeing. It is a 0-cost blue pitch, instant, destroy Potion of Seeing, look at target hero's hand. So that's another one where, again,
be used defensively. Be like, do they have the Razor Reflex? Do they have the Iron Song response, right? Now, is that more effective than just having another defense reaction in your deck? Who knows, right? And it's going to be up to people and their play styles to figure that out. But then you've got other things, like, I think it's this one. No, cremation does not count. It's I think it's balance, right?
Yep. The reaction.
I don't think it's this one.
This is the banished one for potentially like chain.
No. At the beginning of your end phase, if you have less cards in your arsenal than opponent hero, put top card of your deck into arsenal. Yeah, so like this one's fine on chain. Yeah, like it's like, okay, I'm gonna need extra tempo next turn. Everything in my deck is useful to have an arsenal. Okay, so let's go for it, right? Stuff like that. this is particularly going to be useful into that Oldhim matchup, right? You know, Oldhim with a card in Arsenal is like infinitely harder to get past than an Oldhim with no card in Arsenal, and so you now have this ability to say, all right, I can't take your Arsenal away, but I can put something in mine so I can fire back, right?
Yep.
So
It
cool
will be
stuff like that.
interesting too, the things to like keep in mind of when you're sideboarding and all that. Like, you don't want to sideboard into a matchup where you're playing that and then you Arsenal essentially a dead card. Um, you know, Viserai doesn't want to get something like stuck with Rattlebones and Arsenal, because that's a situational card, right? You can't, you might need that Arsenal spot to set up. So plenty of things to take in consideration, but they're not useless. And I think that was just my final sentiment of what I was talking about earlier. There's a lot of different play patterns. There's an entirely different level to Flesh and Blood now. I think a lot of players in the community have started using more pitch stacking methods where they're either going to second cycle or they're just card counting more for, even like Viserai players statistically just looking at the red, black, if I have attack, non-attack, things like that. So yeah, I think it's a really cool time to be playing Flesh and Blood. I think it'll be very interesting to see what kind of deck builds come out of this. We're going to be workshopping a bunch with the team for sure. I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. I think honestly, I was going to say let's wrap this up. Feeling pretty good about the discussion we just had, and I guess if there's one thing that I could say is I'm glad I tried a bunch of classic constructed heroes in the off season, because now I feel better prepped to analyze the potential of this new set. I think I wouldn't show up to a locals with the same deck twice over the last 2 months. So it forced me to play things like Lightning Lexi. I was not a Runeblade player. I refused to play Briar or anything. And I've been afraid of Viserai since the early days. He's a scary man. But played some Viserai, played some Oldhim, played some Kano. Definitely played some Kano. Even played some Bravo, which surprisingly I'd never done. Yeah, I think it's just a really, really cool time to be someone getting into the game, someone who's a veteran in the game. Just lots of new stuff. Really seeing LSS's creativity, I think. We haven't seen all the commons and rares, but I do think that with this set, there's a lot of opportunity, like you said, and so we'll stay tuned for the rest of the set. Maybe Zach and I will come back and talk about it once it's finished. But until then, guys, stay tuned on Team Kitchen Fable. Subscribe if you haven't already. We've got tons of gameplay videos coming out. Fantastic commentary. I mean, our buddy Ruby on the team, he just came out with a chain video, which you should be able to see right before this. We were playing in a team league, and he brought out Ursur and perfectly pitch stacked his chain deck to take down a defensive Bravo, which, if you've been playing since Monarch, you know that taking down defensive Bravo was hard even during the Seeds of Agony meta. So the fact that it's still possible with the right play, the right build, in January of 2022 when Plunder Run's gone as well. So check that out anyways. Really just want to shout out Ruby on the team. And so yeah, subscribe, check out the rest of our videos, and let us know what you think of the set so far. But with that, we'll see you in the next one. Peace.